Welcome to the channel Tribe. In this session of TTT 7th Virtual Meetup, we are having Sandeep Garg talking on JMeter. Please assist me in testing for that load.
Thank you everyone present here today on a nice Saturday morning or evening time. I see people from Mexico, New Zealand, and most of people from India, Pakistan. Wow, awesome. Karachi. Great folks. We have like 100 plus people right now today, and I really appreciate your time here. So Ashutosh has given some introduction about me, about my principal Q architect and as a student of software testing. Today, I'm going to present certain views on load testing using JMeter, and the topic title has been chosen very carefully. I did not mention about JMeter expertise or learn JMeter in 60 minutes or 120 minutes or be a tool expert or something. I chosen the title very carefully, saying that, hey, JMeter, please assist me in testing that load. Now, what that load means, that we will uncover in coming a few minutes. Okay. So allow me to share my screen, and here I go. This one. If you see my screen, please give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you. Lots of thumbs up. Thank you very much. So it's a warming up session, I would say, and some people say, okay, let's break the ice, but I'm saying you people are not the ice. We are all human beings. So just a warming up session to start with. How learning happens, I will be focusing in first few minutes on that, which is important for all of us. And before I start that, let me ask you a question. How many of you are first time or very initial phase of starting your journey into load testing space, and that with any kind of tool including JMeter? If you're first time, can you please send me a thumbs up on the air meet? Okay, a couple of. Thank you very much. Very good. Okay. And how many of you are experienced enough, let's say at least 3 to 6 months of experience in using JMeter in your day-to-day load testing experiments and testing efforts? Okay. Quite a good hands. Awesome. Great. So this session is helpful for both as per already published agenda, as well as my own experience with the JMeter tool and load testing. So as I mentioned, it's a warm-up session. So learning happens in multiple ways, and let's go into a mutual learning readiness assessment here. So I hope every one of you are aware about levels of ignorance, right? So at one point of time, we are all at the same level of ignorance where we don't know what we don't know, or we don't know about the level of ignorances, right? And after a certain point of time, we reach a level where we know something, right? So it is very important for a learner, for a student, and especially for a lifelong learner, to be aware of different kind of ignorance levels all the time. Today, we will move from that certain level of ignorance that we all may have in certain ratio degrees to a learning level. How the learning would look like today, just give me 1 second. So today, we will be focusing on the aspect called the accumulation of knowledge. Okay, so today when I will be covering this session, a few aspects, we will be accumulating a lot of data, a lot of information. And then within the same session, I will try to make sure that you apprehend that data and information. And next, we will go to the practice. And after that, we will move to the assimilation as we go back into our workplaces and we, conduct some experiments, we take some projects into consideration, and we do practice load testing ideas and how to use JMeter or any other tool for that matter to get the information about performance aspect of the system. If that makes sense, just give me a thumbs up and we start the session from now. Awesome, great. I really like the interactive session, and AirMeet offers this thumbs up and other emojis so that I know that I'm on track and I'm along with you. Great. So before we move on, okay, a dozen of wise words I would like to bring to everyone's perusal here. And these words are not by me. These words are some from wise people who are born before us or born within some timeline with us. And they have done some incredible work in software testing and quality space. Now, look at this mind map from in a clockwise pattern, right? So the first number is quality is value to some person. Can anyone from the group write on the chat box right now who said these words? Quality is value to some person. I'm looking at the chat box now. Tara Gupta says James Bach. Closer. Jerry Weinberg, Chidambaram Ganeshan. Thank you. Yes, these are the wise words from Jerry Weinberg. And James Bach added here who matters. Okay. So if you see that part, it says who matters. So James Bach added these words. Now, who can tell me from the group who said the second statement? Testing shows the presence, not the absence of the bugs. Please write in the chat box if anyone knows about it. Testing shows the presence, not the absence of bugs. Pradeep, Nikhil Soni says Pradeep. Nikhil, is it Pradeep Sondarajan, you mean? Maybe. Kem Kenner, no, I guess. Anyone else, please, would like to try? I just want to make sure that we jot some hands. Okay, Rex Black, not possibly.
Sandeep, sorry to interrupt you. Can you zoom in a little? People are facing a little difficulty in
Okay,
viewing
okay,
this.
okay. Is it better?
I hope it should be. I'll ping you. I'll call out if it needs further improvement.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Elizabeth, Dorothy Graham, Lesbex, Discustra, yes, Ram Lakshmi Dinesh. Thank you very much. Edgar Discustra said these beautiful words that testing shows the presence, not the absence of the bugs. And now, because our topic for the today is load testing, who said the third statement? Who mentioned that? Don't assume you know what it means by performance testing. Anyone from the group, please. You're doing great here. I'm getting good responses, and everybody's trying their best to give some answers. Who can tell me from the group? I know it's hard. It's hard because even I didn't know a couple of months back about it. Okay, no response. So let me tell you who said this. This is from an article which is called Heuristics of Performance Testing. And this article was written by Pradeep Soundarajan and Rahul Verma. And the title of the article and one of the items says that don't assume you know what it means by performance testing. And it has profound effect on me. Now, all these different statements we can cover, but let's focus and move on our journey. These slides will be shared with you, so you can make wise guess decisions and you can find out on the internet itself who said what. But this was just communicating you at this level. So let's begin with the basics. And I think it is very, very important that we as a group who are collected here today, I like 125 people around so far, I want to make sure that when I'm talking to you and you are taking some ideas, this whole lot of information from me, at least we level the basics, at least we level the field here. So from the basics standpoint, I would say, are we speaking somewhat same language? What it means? It means I would be asking certain questions to you, and I will be showing some ideas about those questions that I have in my mind. And if we make a balance, if you resonate with my ideas, I think the rest of the journey would be easy for us. So the basics. What is testing? Can anyone of from the group answer me? Right on the chat box, please. What is testing according to you? I'm leveling the field right now. I want to make sure that we are on the same page when we begin this journey of understanding load testing. because load testing is a subset, or one of the type of the testing. So Mahati says gathering information to make decision about a product. Very good. Yes. Ankur Chauhan says verify client requirements. Awesome. Yes, one part of that. Testing is ensuring the product meets requirements. Okay. Adding value to business. To break the system. Divanshi. Wow. Conformance to expected standards. Okay. Somewhere close to Philip Crosby's definition. Kunal, product is meeting requirements. Chetan, according to me, assist devs to write bug-less code. Yeah, one important perspective. Break the system. Exploring a product or a description of a product to understand. Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, all answers are representing the whole spectrum of multiple definitions around testing. For the sake of this session's context, I would be sticking to this definition. And this definition is given by none other than James Bach. Let me make it a little bigger. Yep. So testing is the process of evaluating a product by learning about it through experiencing, exploring, and experimenting, which includes, to some degree, questioning, study, modeling, observation, and inference. And a test is an instance of testing. Why these basics are important? These basics are important because every word given in the definition is carefully chosen, carefully crafted, and we need to understand the importance and significance of all these words. Testing is the process, right? Evaluating a product, you're learning about it. You're learning about the product. And how you learn it? You learn it through experience it. Maybe you are navigating either through human brain and fingers using on a machine, or you are doing it through a automation engine, and you're exploring it. What is there? What's there? You're curious about it, and you're experimenting with it. And in the process of that, what you do, you question it, you study it, you model it. What is this space is? Who are the users? Why they use it? What they're using? Where they use it? And all these things. And you make observations, and then based on your inference, you provide some information. Right? That makes testing challenging, fun, and always a learning process. And a test is an instance of testing. Now, when it comes to the basic, the one important aspect is thinking. Now, critical thinking, how you generate your ideas when it comes to testing. In this context of this session, and because our journey will be going towards load testing, it is important that I tell you something about my experiences of how I look at the ideas at a very high level and not very comprehensive. So when I'm looking at the ideas, I'm looking at the software itself, which is under test, and I'm going to test it, right? At a high level, and to be very specific, I look at a different quality criteria that software has to meet. And as we all know, performance or scalability or the ability to recover and ability to resilience is some of the basic quality criteria that software should have. In the today's web world, it is very, very important when the architectures are complex. For example, microservices. Today, we are talking about macroservices as well, that we really, really read about all these quality criteria. And in this today's session's context, it is performance. And load testing is one aspect of performance testing. We look at the risks that our stakeholders care about or that software can be exposed towards, and explicit and implicit requirements. This is where you take your ideas. Real world objects. For example, I'm very much fascinated by the transportation system across, right? I go to the subway, I take a tube, or I take a loop, right? In other countries, what we call, you see testing everywhere. You see tests being conducted on everywhere, right? So real world objects, it could be anything. For you, it could be something else. You could be traveling. That could help you in understanding, taking ideas for testing. I take my ideas for testing from reading books, blogs, videos, podcasts, conferences, and so many other things. So the basics has to be important. What testing is, what test is, and as a tester, at how many from how many places, from how many things we can generate ideas for. If we are good so far, please give me a thumbs up on the air meet so that I can move on. And if you have any questions, please put on the chat channel, and we will be taking it as we move towards the end of the session. Or if any burning question, we will take any time. Okay, sir, I'm just zooming in. Okay, great. If zoom in is okay, oh, zoom out. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, I heard zoom in. Zoom out. Okay. Ashutosh, if it is better, please let me know. Zoom in was better. See, quality is valued to some person who matters, right? So for Ashutosh, looks like the quality was zoom out. For Mahati, it's like zoom in. Anyways, just let me
Uh,
know, okay?
I was saying if we can see the complete mind map at once so that people can possibly take a screenshot or they can see the
Sh-
complete view.
I will share all these mind maps. No need to worry about the screenshots at this point of time. Let's focus on the learning aspect of this session. This is very critical. All these notes may take different shape when I share with you, or I may enrich with so many stuff. Don't worry about the mind map or taking screenshots. Just focus on learning. The basics are important. Thank you very much if you agree with that. Okay, now let's move to the load testing concepts and more. I don't want you to wait anymore because I know people are waiting for, hey, what about load testing? I know all these basics, and just focus on the load testing concepts and whatever you want to tell. So let me come to that. Who? I love cartoons, and I believe a lot of people here love cartoons as well. When you see a website of your choice, you're a shopping freak, you're any kind of activity that you do. You're a travel freak, you're a shopping freak, you are a entertainment freak, you're a social media influencer or anything. These days, or even before, right? When you go to a web application and you see that you're here to accomplish something, but you are not able to do that just because the website or the web application or the mobile application is somehow slow. It's not loading, right? So you're just like, oh my god, why is it slow, right? And this is where the importance of load testing or the performance testing. When I say or, please don't think I'm saying load testing implies, or load testing can be interchangeably can be said as performance testing. No, I'm saying just take into the context of the talk. Okay. So the performance is very important, right? And to measure one aspect of the performance, right, we say, okay, let's perform the load testing of the application, right? Now, load can be defined in many ways. And before this session, I was doing some research. Okay, what is load in the context of this load testing aspect? And I found that there is no actually precise information about it. And I said, okay, let's leave about it. So from here, we take the definition of load test is, or load testing is a process of conducting certain tests in order to evaluate the performance of the application ecosystem, including the hardware and software, and the entire user experience which is being generated out of that. So what a load test is, as I mentioned, a load test is a multi-user test that simulates the expected or desired. I will come to that, what is desired means, or desired means, user communities, including user delays. Now tell me on the chat box, how many of you are hearing this kind of definition first time? Just write FST on the chat box so that I understand. One thumbs up, FST, FST, FST. Okay, a couple of FST on the chat box. Anandita, Vivain, Ramalakshmi, Tara. Okay, and I think rest of the folks and rest of the people here not okay. FAT. Oh, okay, I mean it's I understand it's FST. Okay, so a handful of us have saying that are saying that we are hearing this definition first time, and I believe it is okay, right? It's not a bad thing that we are not hearing such kind of definition, but I think it is very very important that we start understanding these kind of definitions. Why are they in place? Who invented these kind of definitions? Are these new definitions? Are these just renovation or what, right? A lot of thinking process goes into this direction. So there are few words in this definition, as James Barth's definition I just show you few minutes back, and which is important. The words are chosen carefully. So what they say is, and this definition is from Scott Barber from Perf Test Plus, and I would say he's the one of the fantastic uh, person in the performance testing space, which influenced my thinking a lot. Like James Park in software testing space, and Scott Barber is performance testing space. His thinking, his work is incredible. Okay, so let me try to define. Okay, because nobody can define better than Scott about his own definition. But let me try to do some justice for this definition. So load test is a multi-user test. As we just talked, that your web applications, be it in retail space, be it in travel, be it in banking applications, and especially any application which has an enterprise or mass user centric focus in the in the mass market, multinational, multi-language, multi-geography, demography, and all this, they have multi-user. So Amazon, Flipkart, for example, yatra.com, just take any example where you are purchasing items across the world, there are multi-user. So definitely, along with your general functional testing, right, you want to understand if this application, or if Amazon, you don't think in terms of application, you think in terms of the vendor, you think in terms of Amazon, Flipkart, are they able to handle the traffic? So that's why it's a multi-user. And when you test, you are saying that, hey, I want to generate that multi-user load or a simulation of that multi-user, okay, so that I can understand how the application is performing, or am I able to accomplish my work with a fantastic user experience? So what user communities mean here, I will come to that point, and what user delays means here, I will come to that. Yeah, thank you, Shatosh, for the perf guy. Yeah, Scott Barber. So user communities and delays I will talk about, and let's think about it for a second. Is it testing, and any kind of testing is all around of us? If you think deeply, give me a thumbs up if you think that testing is everywhere, it's all around of us, right? Every day somebody in some aspect test us in some context, right? So before I move ahead, let me show you certain things. As I told you, I'm very much fascinated by transportation, right? So let me show you two, or at least one video. I don't want to take much of your time. I want to jump on JMeter quickly. Let me give you one quick glance of a staged load test for a passenger train. Just give me 1 second. Let me bring my video to this screen. Oh, it's already here. And let me show you quickly, please. Just give me 1 sec. It should be from here. Yeah.
4-meter obligatory span over Gowari flyover, which lies on the alignment between Sitapuri station to 0 Mile station of approx length of 500 meters. The span load stage is divided in 8 stages. The test was started on 7th June 2019 and completed on 16 June 2019 within 10 days. Limited block periods of 6 to 8 hours were provided each day for loading of sandbags. In total, 5,623 numbers of sandbags with an average weight of 32 kgs and 2 numbers of metro trains, each containing 3 coaches, with an average weight of 80 tons has been used for the span load test of 340 tons. The length of each coach is 22.6 meters, and two coaches were positioned on the span for the load test purpose. All the sandbags were thoroughly cleaned before filling sand into them and were tied properly to avoid spilling of sands. 2,823 numbers of bags were loaded on the span, totaling to 96 tons of load. Each train consists of 3 coaches, out of which 2 coaches were loaded with 1,400 sandbags to load of 42 tons. The weight of empty train was 80 tons, resulting to a total load of 122 tons for each metro. Both the trains were loaded at Mihan Depot. MDF and bubble sheets were used inside the coaches to prevent damages to the interior finishes of the train. Safety measures like toolbox talks were carried out regularly before start of each shift, and regular safety inspections were done by MMRCL GC and AFCON safety representatives. Stage 1. Initial stage. The reading without any load was taken, and the readings on each girder were taken at L by 4, L by 2, and 3 L by 4 locations. Stage 2. 2,823 numbers of sandbags were placed over the deck slab with total load of 96 tons. The sandbags were lifted from ground with help of crane and transported to the test location with help of trolley moving over the existing rail track. After completion of the loading, the readings on each girder were taken. Stage 3. The first train. Train 1 with 1,400 sandbags reached the test location on the afternoon of 13th June 2019. The total load at this stage was 96 plus 122, that is 218 tons. After completion of the loading, readings on each girder were taken. Stage 4. The second train. Train 2 with 1,400 sandbags reached the test location after completion of Stage 3 on the afternoon of 13 June 2019. The total load at this stage was 96 plus 122 plus 122, that is 340 tons. Stage 5. After completion of Stage 4 with full load of 340 tons, an observation period of 24 hours was taken, and then the readings on each girder were taken. Stage 6. After completion of Stage 5, one train was released and the readings on each girder were taken. Stage 7. After completion of Stage 6, second train was released and the readings on each girder were taken. Stage 8. In this stage, all the sandbags were removed from the span and the readings on each girder were taken at L by 4, L by 2, and 3 L by 4 locations. Design calculation. The average theoretical deflection under the full test load was 15.86 mm and the actual deflection observed at site was 15.5 mm. The average net residual deflection after removing of the load was 2.25 mm and with a recovery of 85.5%, thus resulting in successful completion of span load test.
Okay, great. Awesome. So I hope at least some of you have enjoyed this video. If someone, how many of you enjoyed this video? Right? It's too relatable, right? And we just take certain things so granted that we don't think, oh, it just happened as a magic. No, look at the preparation, right? And so related, and just give me some few words on the chat box so that I understand you're able to relate what happens in the real load testing words. It's not limited to software, right? Just think of the transportation system, so risky, so safety critical, so compliant, so legalities involved, so many companies involved to do certain things, and look at the magic, right? And so many relatable examples, right? So Ayan says planning the stages, great. Realistic, realistic, nice example, real-time testing. Yes. And why I showed you this example is just because of that reason. The reason is when it comes to any kind of testing, I understand this session is for JMeter, but what I'm coming to is this: JMeter should be a mechanism, a tool that you understand, that you can use and should use based on certain design choices, test design choices. I'm coming to that. And this is where it was a perfect example. Metric collection. Yeah, Sanket said metric collection, real-time testing, deviation. Yes, yes. I mean, so many things. If you look at it once more, and there are so many examples like that, right? There's one more video, but I will not show right away. Okay, that's a famous Boeing 777 wing test that you can look into on YouTube. It's a fantastic test. It's called 154 test. There is one other analogy I can give you right away. Okay, and again, you have to let me know if you can relate with that. Self. I'm coming to self. What do you may ask? What do you mean by self? So I'm saying, okay, when you go to office, when you go to the workplace, right? And you do your 9 to 5 job, right? There are certain stages in your day-to-day work where you feel certain kind of load, certain kind of stress, and certain kind of endurance. Your workload, in some ways, to some degree, is testing you all the time. Let me show you this quickly. What's that? So let's assume that you perform just a 9 to 5 job of testing in your organization, right? What happens? When you are performing your job properly, you are giving the outcomes which are required of you. Can I consider those as an expected workload on you, and you are being tested for that load? Does it make sense? If it makes sense, just give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't make sense, you can write on the chat box right away. Okay. So it's like you are here for a 9 to 5 time. This is your time span here. Okay. We know your capabilities, we know your competency, and now you have to work and produce an output, right? So that is kind of a usual load test. Based on your capabilities, you have to perform to a certain level. We don't expect more than that. Okay. Now imagine that you're shifting from your 9 to 5 testing job, plus there is a user acceptance test, and there is a production deployment, plus some other work communicating with the stakeholders. Now, what we are trying to do is we are stressing you a bit. Okay. We are stressing you a bit, not distressing. There's a difference. We are not distressing you, we're stressing you a bit. Okay, do this and do this and do that as well. Which is called, we are trying to push you to certain limits, not the extreme limits, but to certain limits. And we are trying to do a stress test on that. And in a similar way, there could be a third stage where your 9 to 5 testing job, plus you have a UAT release, you have a production deployment, you have some other work. After deployment happen, there is a post deployment issues, you are doing troubleshooting, you are on support calls, and you are doing reverse engineering. And now this time probably we are testing your endurance. Make sense? If it makes sense, just give me a thumbs up. Right. To some extent, it's just an analogy. There is no hard and fast rule. I'm just making sense that I'm just trying to say that thinking commonsensically, every kind of testing is all around of us. We just need to look at everywhere, and then we can take certain examples out of it. Why I'm showing you all this, why I'm not jumping to JMeter, I'll jump to that, but just give me a few minutes. I'm showing all this because of one reason: realism. We have to think in terms of reality, what the reality looks like when human users are experiencing your systems. Okay. Coming to the another aspect of load testing, which is called credibility of a load test. If you see that Dilbert is a famous cartoon. I came to know only a few years back, to be honest. And just look at what is happening in this communication. So I think this is Dilbert, right? In the folded tie. So he says, "Hey, we added a new performance test, but learned that the test itself is flawed." Now think that way. Just imagine for a second. If your test is flawed, if your test design is not proper, if your test design is not addressing the risk, then how a tool can help you? It cannot. It will just improve your efficiency to put that flawed test in certain engine and will execute it and give you resultant data in many formats, in many ways, and then you will be making a wrong decision. So I'm coming to again one point. Your test is very important. Your test results cannot be greater than the quality of your test design. Okay. So this is one quick example, and now I am really starting the stuff. Okay. So two things are important when you are coming to load testing: the realism of your load test design. Please understand the realism in the test design of the load that you are targeting, that your machines, your infrastructure will be experiencing, and resultant experience will give a delight to your users who are paying you money, your existing users who will do a word of mouth publicity for your applications. Hey, Amazon is that good. Hey, Flipkart is that good, or whatever, Nika.com is that good, or your banking application is so fast, and all these things. So realism is important. And for realism, what is important? We'll cover in a couple of seconds. When all this done, your tests are fantastic, you have configured your tool, whatever it is, then you throw some load towards it. I'll show you. Then the accuracy of measurements, what you are measuring, right? What you are measuring, that matters. And this is where a book called John Doerr's book called Measure What Matters come into picture. There's a good nuggets of learning in that book. So your load test should be realistic, and your measurements, please understand what you are measuring, what are your metrics to say, okay, my load test was successful. That is one aspect. But what I'm seeing from those test results, is it sensible? Is it useful? Is it really going to help me to save money as far as my infrastructure is concerned? Is it really going to help to improve the user experience? Is it really going to help to find out what are the patterns that I can identify to understand if my users are leaving, if they are not coming, if their journey is stopped somewhere in between abruptly? What is that? And are we capable of doing certain things in coming days? For example, big $1 billion sale, right? So two things again: realism and accuracy of measurements. Very critical. Let's move on. Some important concepts. I will not cover everything because, as I said in the first readiness assessment, today is the time of accumulation and apprehension. If I give so much to accumulate, apprehension will not become easy. It will be very challenging. So I will leave certain items on you to understand, do some study, come back, talk to me, or just message me on Discord or something. We will talk about it. But 3 items, please start making understanding on this. Workload distribution, concurrency, and user delays. What is workload distribution? Can anyone from the group just put something on chat so that I understand, what do you understand by workload distribution? I just gave you one lightweight example of that, but I want to hear from the group. What is the wisdom in the group? Workload distribution. Give me some hint. It needs not be perfect. It needs not be, oh, I really need to know all these things. Just some vague ideas about what workload distribution means to you. Please. As long as you give me some ideas, you will be helping me a lot, right? So Mahati says efficiently distributing and managing work across your team. Efficiently distributing and managing. Okay, great. Server handling. Okay, like at peak time. Okay, load balancer. How the work follows. Load balancing. Okay, something like equal work. Distributing, splitting the load into multiple systems. Yes. Distributed testing. Okay, that's the one aspect. Distribute work load equally. Thank you very much. Lots of good things are coming, and everything is converging towards one aspect, which says that, okay, thinking of your load distribution in a way that system performs well and users experience and the user journey are going well. Let me show you something. When it comes to workload distribution, and when it comes to load testing, please do not forget one important aspect, which is users. Users are everything. No matter how fast your systems are, no matter how much you have invested in infrastructure, it's important that your user stays there. They are able to accomplish what they want to do for the purpose they come to your site. So please take care of them. So users, very, very important. And I come to that, how to do that. So users, what they do and how they do and how often. What it means. It means that you have a targeted user, or at least you have certain user that you targeted, that okay, these are my target user, these will come to my website to perform certain things, to accomplish something. Now what they do is important. You know their journeys, right? For example, if you are a shopping freak or shopping person, or even in general, you want to go to Amazon, for example, or Flipkart, and then you want to purchase something, you want to surf something, you want to add something in your cart so that you can purchase later on, right? You want to make a comparison with other website by looking at the product's prices, right? So multiple things are happening, right? So it is important that you understand your users, what they do and how they do. What does it mean by how they do? In this today's world, right, you have mobile application in one hand, right, and web application on your, let's say, laptops or desktops, right? And you have multiple ways to do a single thing. So if you want to purchase certain items, you can do just by pulling the cart, items from the cart and purchase it, or you can do a full workflow of doing the search and picking the item, making a comparison with other website, and then making a purchase, right? So you can do one single thing in multiple ways. So it is important that you also understand what users do, how they do, and how often they do that. And very, very important, since they are humans, they think, they decide, and they delay for some seconds at least. And sometimes they just drop, they just go away, right? So this is called user psychology, user behavior, usage patterns. All are interrelated, no hard and fast boundaries. Okay, understand, on your website, JMeter is not coming. It's not K6, it's not Neoload, it's not Load UI, it's the human users are coming. And you have to understand their psychology, their behavior, their patterns, their tolerance limit. All these things matter when they accomplish something from your web application. Now, I am going to ask you a very important question. Before I started comparing all these things to the tool JMeter, which is, I would say, heart or lungs of this session, I guess. So please tell me, what do you understand by concurrency? Please put on the chat. And I want very fantastic participation from 121 people in this session. Parallel, simultaneous, parallel, reading 100 file at a time, credit, money, simultaneous. Okay, simultaneous, together, multiple user landing at the same time, parallel, same time, parallel. Okay, simultaneously. Okay, great, awesome. Please carry on. I give you like 30 seconds more. I want all these to be coming up, because this is very important topic for today, on which at least I see three tools. I have seen Load UI, I have seen K6, and I've seen the JMeter as well. So they are very much related to this concept of concurrency. Doing continuous task, okay, booking and canceling at same time, question mark for me. Okay, thank you, Tara. Concurrent use, Concurrent users, okay. But that leads to the same question, what concurrency is, because if there is concurrency, it's because of some users, and since concurrency is in place, you may call these users as concurrent. So concurrent user is not the related answer, to be honest. Two users are performing same operation, accessing same feature at same time. Awesome, great, thank you. I needed these answers. And let me tell you one truth. Concurrency is not simultaneousness. They're two different things. Concurrency is an emergent property. What do I mean by emergent property? Think of a gas station, or what we call petrol pump in India, right? Have you ever been to a petrol pump, for a fuel refilling, or some air supply and all these things? Have you ever been in a situation where you have seen in practical, and most of the times, that everybody is rushing at the same time in the petrol pump at the same time? Think that way. Marty is saying yes, they have seen. Okay, at same time. Are you the only users? I mean, the people who are just refilling the oil and air supplies? No, there are other users as well, right? In the gas station ecosystem, right? Okay, exactly. No, you're saying a lot of people are saying no, right? So simultaneousness, think of that way. Now think in terms of software. Simultaneousness is you are doing one type of operation at a given point of time. It's like I give instruction to all these 120 people right now that, okay, just click hands up icon at one point of time, immediately at 11:57. Everybody clicks at 11:57 just at least once, right? But that is called simultaneousness, when everybody is hitting the same thing, same operation exactly at the same moment. That is simultaneousness. But this is not concurrency. The concurrency is about the emergent property of the system when, for example, let's take an example of air meet. Right now on air meet at backstage, certain people are handling certain metrics. I'm speaking here. I'm showing something. Some people are on the chat box. Some people are hitting the hands up icon. Some people are looking into the chat box. They're writing something, right? Now, what it means is that there are still multiple users. There are multiple users, but they not necessarily came into the system at the same timestamp. They are not necessarily doing the same thing at the same time, right? But still, they are active in the system. They are loading the system in certain ways, but there is no simultaneousness. Simultaneousness may occur as a deliberate action. And I have been victim of doing these kind of testing, where I said, okay, let me put a lot of load. And I was like asking some of my testers, okay, do this action immediately at 11 a.m. so that we can send concurrent requests. I was wrong. I was damn wrong. This is not concurrency. Concurrency is an emerging property. We will read a lot in coming sessions if we do on the test drive, and this is a beautiful concept. If you have understood this concept, at least at a high level, that it is not same, there is some difference which is making sense. If you understand that, give me a thumbs up, please. Wow, okay, great, thumbs up. Okay, great. So we all understand concurrency, emerging property. Simultaneousness looks like a deliberate action designed very well, or even maybe a conspiracy, right? Awesome, great. Parallelism, a lot of you mentioned parallelism, and I said, again, we have to read about it. And again, concurrency is not parallelism. Okay, we'll talk about later. User delay. Along with concurrency, workload distribution, this is the very important concept. And I think so far now you have understood, everyone. User are humans, they delay in certain activities. Okay. Now, from here, let me start showing you JMeter, as well as I will be talking about the testers toolkit. Okay. Now, this testers toolkit is about, as of now, at least in the context of this session, is my toolkit that I will propose to you. You look at, take some ideas, don't think as if it is a template, but think of it as using in your day-to-day work. Use what you think is useful, discard what you think is out of context. But I will come to that later on. My question to you is, anyone wants to take a break of 5 minutes, or do we want to continue the session? If you want to continue, just write CONT. And if you want to take a break, just say BRK. Okay. Yes, break. CONT. Okay. Okay. Break. Continue. Okay. Continue. Break. Okay. So let's do one thing. Okay. For the sake of everyone, and even for me, let's take a break for 5 minutes. We meet at 12:05. Okay. The people who say they want to continue, and as a part of the sessions prerequisite, I sent a note to everyone. I hope you got it, that you have to have JMeter installed. How many of you have JMeter already installed? And that is the latest version. Just okay, a lot of people. Thumbs up means JMeter installed. Awesome, great. So the people who want to continue and who have JMeter installed, I have one assignment for you. Oh, 543. Oh, that's the latest. Thank you, Sanket. So for those people who have JMeter installed and can remain here, please remain here, or I mean at your desk. It's not a offline conversation. Who wants to take break, please go to the break. Now the assignment is here. Just note it down, please. Write a script. And let me put it here, okay?
Sandeep, before you do the session, can you let people know that what time you want to resume, because they can actually plan it then.
Okay, so I will resume at 12:10, I guess, because people will be leaving now. Okay, so 12:10 we can meet. Okay, so let me put it here, 12:10. Okay, and for the people who are continuing, please write a script with 10 concurrent users with a think time of 500 milliseconds. And I need the JMX plan from you. Is the task clear? A very simple JMX plan for reaching 10 users concurrency with a think time of 500 milliseconds. And I want the JMX plan. Ashutosh, can we receive the attachments from this chat box, or it has to be put somewhere else?
I need to check this, Sandeep. Yeah.
Okay. So Tuba, yeah, write a script with 10 concurrent users with a think time of 5. Yes. Exactly. And we meet at 12:10. And in the meantime, it's okay. I'm just stopping my camera sharing. Subhash, think time means what, sir? Okay. We'll answer. In the meantime, Subhash, if you don't know what think time is, Amal says it ramp up. No, it's not ramp up. Yeah, it's a delay. Michael Ramirez, yeah, it's a delay. Think time is a delay. I use the terminology from JMeter for people. No worries if you don't know what think time is. Just you can still write one script, simple script. and we should be fine. I'm giving this task so that we start doing hands-on on JMeter, warming up that engine, and when we continue the session, we do this stuff. Hello. Welcome back. It's 12:10. Yes, both three clocks are in sync, my laptop and my two mobile phones. Everyone is back. Just give me thumbs up if almost everyone is back. I see 118 people right now in the session. Awesome, great. Shall we start? Say yes on the chat box, please. Please, please, so that I can restart. And the next 1 hour, we will focus on the load test, the toolkit, the choice of tool, and ultimately the JMeter aspect of it. Awesome. So let me start. So far we talked about certain important concepts. And let me jump on to other important concepts. How many of you are from the enterprise application domain? Please write on the chat box E if you are largely from the enterprise application domain. And let me give you a difference between the enterprise application domain and the web. There are 4 important factors. In enterprise application, for example, I come from an enterprise application testing background, right? So in my case, or in our application ecosystem, the load was very much predictable. Okay, the load was very much predictable. Okay, for a banking back office applications, right, which are doing high transactions, high volume transaction, and all these things, we knew that okay, there are a couple of 50,000 users across the world who are doing certain operations in a day with different geographic locations, right? So load was very much predictable. The user behavior was very much predictable as well. We knew what kind of operations are in place. We knew what are the personas in the system. We knew how they operate the system, right? We knew uh, when they work a lot and when they don't work a lot. System variables are almost very much fixed. Okay, some variations here and there, but not much variations. And risk, if something happens to the production system, let's say it's down for some a few seconds, or let's say it is not performing well, some page is not showing up, the risk doesn't go outside. The risk information usually doesn't go outside. No back office person or administrator is going to on Twitter and say, "Oh, dear vendor, my application is down, and you please look in something, some look into this." Right? It usually does not happen. On the other side of on the other side, web application, as you know, or as you should know, that it's mass user centric. So any shopping website, they're mass user centric. No matter if the demography is limited to one geographical region or a country, or it's across the world, internationalization, number of people, right? So for them, the definition of load is very different from definition of enterprise applications. So load will be very much unpredictable. The spikes, the peaks, and the normal behavior may vary over the time. For example, big $1 billion sale, Christmas, holidays, 26th of January, Republic Day sale, and all these things, right? So load vary, right? The user behavior vary. Look at the user population, their geography, their demography, right? Their tolerance limit, everything gets changed, right? So how many of you are from enterprise application domain, please? Please write on the chat box E so that I understand. Guys, am I audible? Can you give me a thumbs up if I'm audible? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. How many of you are from enterprise application? Can you write on the chat box, please? Or are you done with chat box writing? I'm okay with that. If you're not interested in that, it's fine. Okay, a couple of E, no. How many of you are working totally in the web application space? Mass user centric, like you are Amazon, Facebook, web. Web, yes. Okay. Large scale as well as enterprise. Okay. So why this topic is important to talk? Because as I'm showing you here, there are few factors that you have to consider, important as well. As I told you a few seconds back, that the business purposes of these two application ecosystems are different. Their executive team worries about different kind of risks. Okay, not they are not entirely same. If not entirely different, they are not entirely same. The volume of transactions are different. The scope, when it comes to geography and demography, is different. Behavior, interests, tolerance, legalities, technology stack, frameworks that you decide to build those application, and system configuration all are different. So coming back, if you are from enterprise of application, this is important. Now, one quick question to everyone here, and please help me. What is Little's law? Can anyone quickly put on the chat box what is that? Little's law. It's a beautiful concept, and it is important in the context of tool that we are going to use and what kind of load testing problem we are going to solve. Knowing this law, at least understanding workload model defining tool, okay. Ian, are you saying that the Little's law can be used in defining a workload model tool? Not tool, actually an equation. Okay, yes, exactly. It's an equation, a discipline within the mathematical theory of probability. Okay, Mahati, good. Maybe. Okay. Who else? Little's law. Okay. Little's law, we will not discuss in today's session, to be very honest. I want to give the data that is good enough to consume for this session. And Little's law goes towards more active versus transactions. Okay. So we will cover it later on, but I just wanted to bring focus on this, right? It is important. It's somewhere in the communication theory. I try to use this as a Conway's law as well. Okay, let's quickly jump on the testers toolkit, which will now start the most awaited section of this session, JMeter. Okay, let me expand fully. Nothing to hide here. Or should I? No. Let me hide something. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Load test design. If you remember a few minutes back, I said all testing is based on models. Okay. Now, let me bring into your notice, into your consideration, a model called UCML, which is called User Community Modeling Language. And if you remember from this slide, I mentioned about it. I mentioned that a load test is a multi-user test that simulates the expected or desired user communities, including user delays. So this user community is basically coming from the idea of user community modeling language. And what is this? Again, I would say, if we think commonsensically, it is all around us. It is about user behavior. And let me show you. If you see my screen, just and if you have any difficulty, let me know on the chat, but I think it should not be. Let me make it slightly bigger. Is it good enough? Just give me a thumbs up if it is good enough. I will do proper synchronization with you all folks so that you don't have any difficulty in navigating through. Okay. And allow me to give me a little explanation. Okay. So look at this. This is a shopping cart website. And from here, I think the concept around concurrency, simultaneousness, workload distribution, delays, and all these things should be resolved immediately. So on a typical day, you have I'm assuming, okay, this workload, it's a model. It models the real world. It's not necessarily true, but it is helpful in a certain contexts. So what it says is that, okay, out of your 100 users, 20% users could be new users, which is here. Okay, just give me 1 sec. Here, 20% is your new user. and members are 70%, returning members for this. Administrators are 4%, and vendors are 6%, right? And I think the best example I could give of is of Paytm. Once upon a time, I was in their office to meet one of my friend, and I could see, the vendors are coming, and for me that was a new experience because I've never been into such company where vendors are coming to meet people who are servicing them. Now this was, and think of that way, since it is real physical interaction, it means that there should be a softer aspect of it as well, right? It's as simple as that. You don't want to meet physical all the time. That's why software in place, automation of certain kind of activities, right? So there are certain kind of users which is called user distribution. There are different user type. Now new users behave in a different way. Members are returning members, so they already have their logins, they already have certain items and all that stuff. Administrator do certain different things, report generation, account reporting, statements and all that stuff. And this basically create a community of users who are doing certain behaviors on their application. So let's look at this. This dashed lines is basically crossing the home page. Okay, this is basically crossing the home page. Now, after crossing the home page, what it says is that your members log in. 15% of the members log in through the credentials. They update the accounts. They update the account in the account data. They check the order status, and either they exit or they log out or they order, right? Order number through the check order the status. The new user or member, 75% of them search. There is a criteria and they come back. If it is in stock, then they exit. If it is not in the stock, they exit. If it is in the stock, they add it to the cart. But 70% of them, and then new user go create account, and new existing member login again. They save in the cart or the order, and they exit and log out. How many of you already doing this kind of behavior analysis or modeling your users in your web application testing space? Please give me a thumbs up if a lot of users are doing this. And if someone of us is not doing that, please send me a no on the chat box, because important consideration this is. No, no, no. Yes, okay, very good. Kunal Kaushal is doing it already. Okay, no. Okay, great. No, okay. Now tell me this. How many of you believe, or at least have some kind of eye-opening moment at this point of time and thinking, my goodness, doesn't it look so realistic and simple, and still we are not thinking that way? Sort of. Look via Google Analytics. Exactly. You're talking about Google Analytics, what people do and all these things. Okay, so Rama Ganesh, okay, you're saying no. Okay, so do you find it realistic? Give me a thumbs up. Right, this is where you see the old wine in new bottle, right? You are talking about analytics tool, you are talking about application insights, metrics, live metric, failure rates, exceptions rate, and all these things. Chetan says, I tried ask user journey from devs but never allowed. Different topic we will cover, maybe certain, there are different ways to negotiate with them. But anyways, so this is called a user community modeling language. And again, all models are useless, all models are wrong, some are useful. So when you are, can you please zoom in it a bit? Okay, sure. Just give me 1 second, please. Thank you very much for asking. And also let me know which part you are looking at right now. So let me give you a quick brief. So these are 20% new user and all these things. So this is the home page. They start their journey through, not necessary, but for this model, let's understand that. And then they do different activities. And all you see is the different percentages. This is where workload distribution come into picture. Okay, and this is where concurrency come into the picture. Right? Not everybody is coming at same time. They're coming, they're staying, they're doing something. somebody's checking orders, somebody's updating account, and they do exit and log out. You see, exit and log out are two different things. Okay. So this is called UCML, User Community Modeling Language. I will give you all the details, all the relevant links, article links to read about it. But please make sure that when we go back from this session and who are going to start their journey in load testing, please understand designing after understanding the load testing problem is the critical thing. You can then use or exploit any tool at your perusal to solve that testing problem in different ways. Okay, now let me directly jump to JMeter. It's like 30 minutes and I don't want to embarrass you that I have not covered JMeter, right? Let me open something and let me also show you how the tools have been evolved. Okay, let me see if I'm in the right place. Whew. Yes, I'm at the right place. So this is my JMeter. Let me see if JMeter view. Okay, in JMeter we have, give me 1 second to use zoom in. Zoom in. Okay, great. Give me 1 sec. So this is my JMeter. Is it good enough? Guys, please give me a thumbs up if it is good enough. You're able to see this. Awesome, great. So I'm on 5.4.3 right now. This is a test plan. How many of you know that a test plan in JMeter, the definition of a test plan in JMeter is different from the test plan that we software testers usually talk about? How many of you know? Give me a thumbs up on here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, quite a few. Okay, I think looks everyone knows that. Okay, it's a few. So in JMeter, for the people who don't know, it is very, very important. It's an inclusive session. The people who don't know, a test plan, okay, can you please zoom in a bit? Okay, just give me 1 second. Zoom in. Is it better? Okay, I think it's better now. So I have been a programmer for like 2 years, a couple of years back, and as a tester also I look at certain code review activities like unit tests and all these things. Sometimes, really, I look at the coding standards and all these things. So I try to write in a proper naming convention my tests at least. So on the top of everything, everybody knows, or whoever doesn't know, you all can use Zoom options. Okay, fine. So on the top of everything, there is a test plan. And in JMeter, a test plan is basically a set of settings. Okay, it's not about the execution ideas. It's a set of settings, right? Below that, there's a thread group. Okay, now thread group is where the concept of, virtual users, I think virtual user concept came from Load UI, I guess. And in JMeter context, usually we talk interchangeably with respect to concurrent users or virtual users or threads. And I think the problem starts here. The journey from a human being using your system towards a machine-focused virtual user, we start making that difference, right? We consider it looks like we consider human as a thread who is not thinking. There is no delay and all these things, right? And this is how the tools evolve. Let me show you how. So now, if you go to a very simple thread group, and how do you do that? You simply go here and you add a thread, which is, if you say users, and usually when you are not here in the plugin manager, okay, so in plugin manager, I have added a couple of plugins, which is available latest, right? And one of these is custom thread groups. Okay, so since I already have it, I can see a couple of thread groups in my test plan, which says arrivals thread groups. Now these thread groups are given by BlazMeter. So what you see is normally in a plain vanilla implementation, there are three thread groups. One is the thread group, other one is setup thread group, and the third one is tear down thread group. Any one of you who has worked in test ng for some automation framework, they know what is setup and what is tear down. It is just for, when you are setting up, you do certain activities, and when you are finishing up, you are cleaning the database or closing the connection and all these things, right? But are these enough to solve your problems if you are just running with the plain vanilla implementations? Probably not. Not all, I would say, right? So there are other thread groups which are important for you to know in order to solve your load testing problem. Okay. For example, if I say, okay, concurrency, oh, I know the concurrency, that my immediate reaction to this thread group is this. Let me add this thread in my tool or in my test. Okay. And then what I do with this, just give me 1 second. Now I have added this thread group. What it offers to me, it says I can change the name. I would say I have, let's say, sample 1000 users concurrency. Now I'm definitely not going to this 1000 user. It's my personal machine. It's not my old machine that was IBM ThinkPad that crashed a few weeks back. Otherwise I could have done that. So what it does is it gives you an idea of what you are targeting. Okay, now think of that. If you go to the existing thread group, it says number of threads, right? Which I think in a certain kind of assumptions that you already have evaluated by some ways that you know what the concurrent users are, which is not near to the truth. There are ways definitely to model, there are ways to imagine how many concurrent users there could be. But it gives me an impression, at least to me, that you have already made a mind. Okay, I know there are 1000 users. Okay. Now this concurrency gives me an impression of little bit closer to the reality. And it says, okay, what is your target concurrency? What do you think, right? So it talking you in terms of target. What do you think? So I would say, okay, I'm targeting 1000 users. Okay. Now it says ramp up time. Now the thinking time is not ramp up time. A ramp up time, if you have noticed, I have another video which is called Boeing 777 wing test. If you look at that video someday, they were trying to bend the wing against the designed load factors, and what they said was they were ramping up the wing to 75% ramping up period. So what ramping up means is this: your 1000 users will arrive in the system in 60 minutes if you take it in 60 if you take it as in minutes. Okay, here is a minute, and you can configure this from here, seconds or minutes. Okay, if I do it seconds, it turns into seconds. You see point? So the ramping up period is about 1000 users will reach the system in 60 seconds. And what are the steps count? I would say, okay, what are the ramp up steps? So I would say 100. Hold target rate, which means how long you want these 1000 people in your system. So I would say, well, I want it from 120 minutes. And let's see what happens. Just give me 1 second. Okay, 1000 users. Just give me 1 sec. Let me see if the zooming out has some, yeah, zooming out giving a little bit more realistic impression. You see this? Now this is an attempt, I would say. This is an attempt to make it more realistic to how the load will increase over the time, how long the people will stay in the system, right? This is a more visualization aspect of it. Now, if I say ramp up step count is, let's say 250. Okay, and I would say 10,000, right? So this give me some idea of how this ramp up step count is 100 or 10, let's say, right? Now look at this. You are saying that 1000 users will be ramping up or coming into the system in the next 60 minutes, and then the ramp up step count is 10. Now this again gave you little bit unrealistic view that how is it possible that people are coming this way, like a step by step kind of thing, right? So why I'm saying all this, I'm saying that when you want to run your load test, then it totally depends upon your testing problem, how you want to select from these multiple thread group. For example, there is another thread group called arrival thread group. Now arrival thread group doesn't talk about concurrency of users. You see that? It talks about target concurrency, but this thread group talk about target rate. Rate of what? I think, and as far as I use this at least once, it talks about transactions. Transactions. Transactions per minute. And it doesn't care about your users. What it says, if you use this thread group, solve a problem something like how many people, or sorry, assume that there is a load testing situation where you are trying to solve a problem like people, how many people, or how many people are buying, let's say 1,000 tickets from my website in next 1 hour. So what you are saying them is 1,000 tickets. You are not saying how many users are buying those tickets, right? So that is the transaction arrival rate. Okay, how many iterations you're going to run. Okay, you understand? So use these wisely. When you see a plain vanilla implementation, just don't jump onto the thread group. Okay, just don't go, okay, let me do the thread group, let me add some throughput controllers, let me add some constant timers, and let me do the distributed testing. Please arrange me 2 machines. I want to run distributed on CLI. No. Think about which which thread group is going to solve what kind of problem for you. There is enough good documentation, and one of the best documentation other than JMeter I found on BlazeMeter site, because if it is, if you see the prefix, they use BZM. So there are contributors for BlazeMeter who offer these plugins for JMeter. So if I look at certain credible information on plugins, what kind of thread groups we should use, I usually go to JMeter, or I usually go to the BlazeMeter. Octaperf is also good, which is a very good website to understand. I do not prefer certain websites. I don't want to take names here, but it's okay. It's fine. The other aspect is, so thread group we covered. Now let's cover about one important thing. Okay, before we move further. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So now you understand the UCML, right? Now you understand that, okay, how to use the thread groups, or at least how to make decision about thread group. Okay. I have seen a couple of videos on YouTube last month, for example, I would say, to understand about these different thread groups. Most of them talking about just using that thread group, but not talking about the use case in details. In couple of days, my plan is to, I'm just saying here because I'm really going to do that, is that I may be releasing certain videos on how to use these thread groups in different problem situations. So the idea is that there will be some problem statement, there would be some design statement, and then there would be a thread group usage statement. Okay, so please wait for that, but that's for next sessions, I would say. Now let's come to the very other important topic, is called heuristics. How many of you already using some kind of heuristics for test design in load testing other than usage UCML? Please write on the chat box me if you are using it. Any kind of heuristic, and please let me know the heuristic name or the mnemonics at least. Am I audible, guys? If I'm audible, can you give me a thumbs up, and please start writing if you're using some heuristics. Okay, I don't see anything. Let me write this way. Anyone using heuristics? Write on the chat box, please, guys. It would help me. What is heuristics? Okay. How you design your tests? What are your guide words? How you design your test ideas or test cases? What is the theory behind that? Okay, not an issue. So let's talk about certain heuristics. And this heuristics again given by Scott Barber, and he calls it fiblots. Let me do this. This one, fiblots. Now, fiblots is again closely related to your UCML. Okay, and there are a lot of heuristics. There are a lot of mnemonics like this that you can and should, I would say, can and should use in your day-to-day testing efforts when it comes to load testing. Okay, so it's called fiblots. So it usually talks about what are the frequent operations, what are the database, for example, a component intensive operations, what are the business critical operations that you should take care when you are performing load test. Okay, when you're beginning the load test, okay, before you jump the guns on JMeter or any other tools, okay, please do certain things that will be really helping you in using JMeter properly, or at least with least efforts. Okay, one of the things I found is the BlazeMeter extensions. Postman you can use. You can use your human navigations, right? You can look at the part of the system, front end, APIs and databases. And let me show you quickly how I used BlazeMeter extension to record a end-to-end use case behavior that was slightly difficult by using JMeter because of this proxy and all that stuff. So let me quickly show you. Just give me one sec. Here we are. Just give me 1 second. Okay, great. So you see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. Okay, great. So this is BlazeMeter free account. Definitely they'll charge if you use try to use certain things a lot. Not using as such, yes. Okay, this is the answer for this question. If you're not using heuristics, again, I will give you entire thing from here, all the links that will help you to find out how legal plays role here. Good question. I'll come to that. Thank you very much. Few hiccups sometimes, yes. Few hiccups is good from an Oracle standpoint, where you try to understand, and that's a good heuristics. You know, that a good mnemonic for a heuristic where you are looking at the Oracle side. I'm more focusing on the test design side. How you focus on your test designs. Okay, so so exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that. To use JMeter more efficiently, you can use certain elements from here, BlazeMeter side. So what I did today was open recent. Let's say I was thinking, why not we use? Just give me 1 sec. Yes, you see this. So this is nothing. This whole test plan, and thread groups, and all these. I did not add it on with my hands. Okay, let me do some test plan, then admit header manager, define variables and all these things. You can easily do it with if you go here and there is a add non-test elements, there is one thing called http test script recorder that you can add it from here. But again, it requires you to fixing some port domains and request filtering and all that stuff. But with this tool, which is BlazeMeter, and I can show you the plugin here quickly. There is a BlazeMeter plugin. If you open this, let me open this here. This is the BlazeMeter site, and you open this BlazeMeter, right? And now, based on this, I'm logging right now in the BlazeMeter account. Okay, this is, you see this? So I'm logged into BlazeMeter right now. So now, what you can do is, if you have any website for you want to do a load testing, one of the initial steps, please be careful. One of the initial step is to do a end-to-end use case. End-to-end use case. Okay, how you, let's say for example this, you go through, let's say basedemo.com, and you want to do something Paris to Rome, something or London, and let me pick this again, and I would say record to demo, and I would say start recording. This is the one. I choose this flight. Find flights. It should find some flight. If the okay, is it working? Paris to London. Yeah, so it sees some flights. I choose this flight, for example, and I do FN, for example. I do one, for example. I would do a city. I do a state. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess it's already there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I Visa, American Express. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say purchase flight. Now, thanks. This is one kind of end-to-end use case for this. I stop this. I go back, open this, and I say edit, JMeter script. And you see, this gives me a record to demo, and these are the different operations already being recorded. Okay. And I can export it to JMeter, converting it, exporting to JMX, and it is loaded. And then let me see where it is, showing folder. Okay, great, it is here, and I can go to here, and I say open, please, downloads, and I think record to demo, open. Yes, and see, this add the elementary stuff for you on its own. User defined, even user defined variables, right? So your job become easy, and this approach of recording a test and later use as a JMX plan in your load testing effort helps you. It is not the end, it helps you. Okay, how many of you already using this approach in at least in one aspect? Okay, a lot of people. Awesome, great, then good. One time while learning. Yeah, Chetan, I mean, I think see, you can explore a system in various ways, and as a job, my job as a tester is uh, looking into the reinventing aspect of testing. Okay, probably some into execution, but always I look for the tools that help me to become more effective and efficient in doing certain things which I should not do, right? So from learning JMeter perspective, well, I can understand what header manager does, why is it required. So I should have answers in my head for the questions like, how do you best simulate a browser behavior, because JMeter is not a browser, right? So I would say, okay, let me think in terms of header manager. Let me think in terms of DNS cache manager, right? Authorization managers, cookie manager, cache managers, and all these things, right? But probably tools like this can help a lot. I have even used tools like Postman, where I collected all the, for example, I was doing an API test, right? And the API testing was done. And we know that Postman use a different sandbox, right? So once that's not, I did not find, I would say this way, I did not find to be very inclined to use Postman as a load testing tool. JMeter is there. It's helpful. It's sufficient enough. Okay, but I've used turning the scripts from Postman into JMeter so that it helps me. It doesn't require me to do the same thing again and again. Okay. Now coming back. So what I'm saying is, you can start when you're saying load testing. You can start exploration with sympathetic testing, saying Blaze meter extensions, right? Now with sympathetic testing, you can also start looking at your benchmarking or baselining the tests. Baselining is important. Okay. You can start understanding, okay, do I really need to put 1,000 people load on the system immediately? No, right? I may use just 1 or 2 users to understand how the system is behaving. You can have all your resourcing at places, resource monitoring and all this stuff. Okay. So look into that. Now let's come to the choice of tool. Can we do load test in SAP HANA since it's license based? I'll come to that, sir. To be honest, I have not used SAP HANA so far, so I may not be the best person to answer that. Let me look into the last one, which is JMeter further. and let me extend all. Now, if you have understood the concept so far, okay, I would request each one of you who are going to use JMeter, your tests are already designed. You have to understand, in the sense that you focus on the test design and think of the tool as a mechanism where your design tests can be converted into scripts. Do I make sense? Your test designing should happen first, and then use the tool to turn into certain scripts. Because as I tell you, in JMeter, your test plan is a set of settings, right? And I remember when from the book called Lessons Learned in Software Testing, the configuration, operation, observation, and evaluation, right? Configure your tool very well. Configure the settings, tune it so that it can understand your design, test design in terms of scripts. Okay. What JMeter does for you, it's a load generation for scripts. So you have your design ready. You know what problem you are trying to solve. You have chosen the correct thread group, for example, right? You have chosen all this stuff, and by a definition. For example, if I say what is HTTP request defaults, immediately go to JMeter, help, which is here, right? And you know it, right? What is just give me one more. Yeah, what is HTTP request defaults, right? So you know that, correct? And you can read it here and you can put it here. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Where is that? Awesome. So think of in terms of your design tests converting into scripts, and what JMeter does is it generates the load for you, which means you can use any thread group, you can put any virtual number of users, given the fact that you know the limitations or the capability and capacities of your machines that you're using. You have monitoring tools available on your server side, as well as the resources that your machines are consuming, and then you have reporting. Okay, so let's play a little more with the JMeter. So now, as I told you, this is a plugin manager. Please use plugins here. There are beautiful plugins here that can help you a lot. I'm closing it. And let me show you one other test for the sake of timing right now, which is in this. I did this test using JMeter. Give me 1 second. Zoom in, and zoom in. I hope it should be visible very well. And as I told you that I take care of the naming convention and all these things. And again, this was a simple test. There was no complication. When somebody says me, I want to run distributed test, it's okay, fine. You are just trying to use certain machines to distribute the load and making them a master slave configuration. And that's all that you want to do. But why you want to do that, right? That's the important thing to understand. How you are going to do that, there are a lot of tools, resources available. But why part, what part, and when part? You see, why part, what part, and when part? I believe firmly that it's a tester's decision. It's a tester's credible and wise decision to think on those lines. And then as a tester, I can say, okay, probably my project is about CI/CD these days. They are using CI/CD. So let me use something which fits better in the CI/CD pipeline. So let me say use K6, which is getting traction, and not right now. It's years. K6 is getting traction for years, right? So I'm showing you this, for example, to show you how in a simple test different things can be used. Okay, so this is roaming web API. It's a demo, but it was real at certain point of time, right? Now you can see here, the variables side of it. Since it was a command line, so I take care a lot of things about what can be delivered or what can be executed, what can be pumped into the system through the command line itself. So use number of users and ramp up time. that can be given from command line. This was a throughput controller. And see, relying too much on tool without understanding its documentation may give you some kind of confusions. For example, the JMeter official documentation says itself that throughput controller is badly named. This controller is badly named. There's a different controller for throughput. Let me show you that quickly. So you're on a thread group and you say logic controller, and here is something. Throughput controller, not, this is not. Only ones, random order, weighted switched, parameterized, switch controller. Just give me 1 second. Where is that? Throughput controller, have not added. Yeah, this one. So constant throughput timer is something that we should use for each and all these things. Only one controller, random order controller, and all these things. So different controllers are available. Okay. So far, you with me? Trying to understand what I'm showing you right now, guys? Please give me a thumbs up. I see very hands upping. It is the important section. Okay, how to use the tool wisely. It is very, very critical. Everybody can tell you, okay, use this, and you are done. Look at the graphs and all these things. Use summary chart and all that stuff. It's okay, fine. But unless we understand why are we using that, it's of no use, right? Then we have used, regular expression, right? So you have this, for example, you send HTTP request to the HTTP request sampler, right? So this is a piece of cake, right? But are you using regular expressions properly? How are you validating? For example, when I do my test and I say, okay, fetch the regular expressions, it is important for me to validate that regular expression through a third-party regex validator. For example, regex 101. That's a fantastic tool, right? Most of the time, what happens is, even so many tools are available in the market, so many libraries available in the market, your development team might choose, because of some requirements, to use their own regular expressions, right? So think on that lines. This is HTTP request again. These are the header manager you all use. Bean shell, preprocessor, use them. Okay. So how do you extract the data? Like, for example, when you have a OAuth request kind of thing, you have a bearer token, largely bearer token or some kind of other authorization. When you have a bearer token, how do you get the values? You have to learn for your own benefit some kind of programming to some extent. Every good tester, every decent, every great tester I have interacted with so far, they have certain good programming skills in various aspects. Okay. So if you want to exploit, or I would say utilize in a very good detail JMeter, look at different aspects of it. Groovy script, for example, the JScript and all these things. CSV configuration, right? Start using that. It's everywhere, right? So start using the CSV config, which is here. Flow control action, what it does. Okay. JSR 223 timer. Okay, this is important point. How many of you heard about pacing and used it? Pacing. Please write P on the chat box. I want fully participation right now. Seema Rava did not use. It's fine. Totally okay. No. Who of you can tell me why pacing is required on the chat box? But that's okay. My point is this. Just throwing 1,000 number or 10,000 number of users to assess how your system is performing without using the right set of tools or features, functions within the tool is not going to give you the proper results. There will be misleading results. So, important thing, understand the problem, design your test, and then find out what and at what time in your software development testing life cycle, which tool is going to help you to give the information at the time when you need it the most. Let me tell you one of my mistakes. Once upon a time, I was given a task. I was given a task to assess if a database, particular segment of database, particular collection of tables of database is really causing a problem. Is it the data problem? Is it the query problem? Or is it something in a common table expression or a stored procedures problem? Years back, I could not understand the mission properly. In my thought, you see how I made mistakes. In my mind, I wanted to be a JMeter expert rather than understanding or giving little thought or not giving appropriate thought to the real problem of the customer. From my customer standpoint, hey, you know the potential problem areas, right? All I need you is this. You find something in JMeter or whatever it is, they don't care about JMeter. Find something which can tell us what is causing the bottleneck. Is it the database? We got to fix it. If it is the structure of the tables, we got to fix it. If it is the data, we got to fix it. Or if it is certain kind of queries written in certain ways which are not maybe compliant with our standard procedures, or even if standard procedures, they are not valid anymore. The data structure being used, the joins, for example, we have used, if they are not good enough, right? Or even if the indexes are not good in the database, find out what's happening. And for that, what I thought, okay, let me write some good suit and let me use, this is one of the example, right? Let me use pacing, let me use distributed, I will throw 1,000 users. No, you don't need to. Or at least at that time, it was not required. Just a shallow test, a light touch test with, let's say, 500 users from one script was enough to do that. Okay. Shallow test was run. We found the bottleneck. It was on the stored procedure side. We fixed it, done. And later on, we run some kind of tests. So use JMeter wisely. And as I mentioned, today is a lot of accumulation. All the controls usually, and let me, it's already 2 minutes over, but we started around 12:05. So let me cover a few topics. Please take note of these. Threads. Play with other than this thread group. Okay. Understand the value of setup and tear down thread group. Okay. Arrival, concurrency, freeform. Stepping, I guess it is deprecated. Anyone knows if stepping is deprecated now? Anyone in the group, please? If they know if it's stepping, if you're using JMeter for a long time, can anyone please help me with that? Yes, no, anything? So that I know you are here, not sleeping. Tara Gupta says no. Okay, no problem. Rajalakshmi, no. Okay. Oh, Ankit says yes. Okay, great. So it is deprecated, I would say. And Ankit, what about ultimate thread group? Is it also deprecated? Tuba, Fatima, don't know. It's fine, Fatima. Tuba, Fatima, it's okay. When we start this journey, we will come to know. Okay, great. All right. So there are config elements. Mostly I have used these CSV dataset config because it allows you to make your test data driven. And think of that when you understand what kind of concurrency should not be the word, I guess. I would say when you know how the users are going to be coming onto your system that cause concurrency, and you know what that data could be, you make the data for particular test with the load generator as realistic as possible. As realistic as possible. Okay, for different transactions. For example, as I mentioned there are frequent transactions. For example, if you want to simulate a registration process, how effectively that is working, or what is the performance, right? And you know that there are different field limits in your form or whatever. If you want to interact with the API, it's okay, fine. You can also use the theory of component level testing. Okay, so you have system level test, you have component level test. So your application could be built in terms of APIs and a database and microservices. You can test at that level as well. The ultimate goal is to find information. Where is the road? Where is the bottleneck? What is causing slowness? And all these things. I'm sorry for that. Right. So use these config elements. Right. um, DNS cache manager, for example, um, user defined variables, very much helpful. Java request defaults I have not used. LDAP I have not used, to be very honest. And then listeners. Okay, one of the thing that if you let me show you this screen. Okay, show this screen. When I usually start from the command line. Okay, and which is preferred way as well. Okay, there are ways to become habitual with this tool. Okay, so I start with command line. When I use JMeter, when I'm looking this kind of recording and understanding, which thread to use, which listener to use, I use just to validate once. Let me show you what I mean. What I mean is this. If I recorded a plan, I would simply say, hey, validate. It's running, I guess, but there is no, let me add one here. Okay, so let me add one listener here. Let's say simple one, view results tree. Okay, and let me clean everything if it is there, and then let me run. Okay, great. It's running right now. So the requests are going on. It stopped, right? These are the request and response and all that stuff. So what I was talking about is that for these purposes, that okay, if my script is ready, if my test plan is okay, I use that. Otherwise, one of the best practice from the JMeter community itself is that don't use GUI mode for load testing, only for test creation and test debugging. For load testing, use CLI, again, was known GUI. Everything is given here. You can go to the help file and you can understand so many stuff from here, right? When you are, again, I do not run more than 50 users, depending upon the use case, on my personal machine if I want to run some experiment. Okay, we need a better machine. And for that, you have to set your current environment variable for the heap. Okay, so these are the best practices. You can always go and look into it for the JMeter using best practices. Okay, so, and there are different options. Go to all these options, especially the plugin managers, and let me quickly share my screen once again. Use templates, they're useful. Okay, at least for the recording of the test, it saves time for you. You focus on test design, you focus on thinking of test data, you focus on environment setup, you focus on finding mapping your test ideas with the help of heuristics, right? And whatever tools job, let it do for you. For example, templates, right? Understand shortcuts. Plugins, think of what GUI, CLI, understand the difference. Configuration, helpers, right? Additionally, you can look into the online JMX validator or JMX editor tools. Understand the regular expressions, right? So I think today I should be stopping here. It's more of as I'm coming back to this, is more of accumulation. Let's go to the apprehension. First, we start practicing, and then one day we reach here in this journey. But please make sure these things. I think this all testing is based on models. We have got only one life to live. It is by one of my favorite in software testing space, Hans Buwalda, who has written a wonderful article on soap opera testing, which is about scenarios. So I'm very much influenced by his words. He says we should not waste it on ineffective test design. Tools are helpful. Design is like king sort of thing, right? To apply your solution effectively, be it a tool selection, you need to understand the problem effectively. This is the key. And in the end, all you have is the impression of the product. This I took from lessons learned in software testing, and this is truth. We covered some basics, load testing. We talked about a specific thing, workload distribution, concurrency, user delays. We talked about the tester's toolkit. We talked about some lightweight tools that you can use at your perusal, and choice of tool based on design test as scripts, load generation for scripts, monitoring and reporting. And this is where this tool come handy. Any questions? We are like 10 minutes over, but I'm open for the questions. And it's a huge tool, right? It's not one day or like 2 hour stuff that can be concluded. But if you look at the overall agenda of this talk, which was published before as well, it says, JMeter, please assist me to test for that load. Okay. I'm not going to throw at you a random number. First, I will design the load. I will understand how is it important, how is it going to helpful, and then I will come to you and say, can you help me? And let me explore you, right?